first I got to say, my wife loves all things Outlander. I mean, she's read all the books, and she's just halfway through this series now. And yeah, so I'm like going to be a hero for one night if telling her all the secrets.
Well, I cast all of Outlander, so I
I
was
know,
there
yeah.
from the beginning.
Yeah, and I started watching it with her, and one of the things that I really liked about that show and this new one too is that I'd never really seen the actors before. It was all like new faces to me. So it was much easier for me to kind of get into that world.
Yeah.
Like, what was the reason for not casting like any big time, big recognizable faces for this and the original?
Well, Stars always sort of said, "We'll make you a star,"
And it has, yeah.
which is which is great. And also, you've got to have the reality of we do have Scottish actors. We do have some actors who are not Scottish playing Scottish. But even the Scottish actors sometimes go, "I didn't know they weren't Scottish," especially on Blood of My Blood. It's quite funny. Tony
Yeah,
Curran
I mean,
sort of was going, "They're not Scottish." It's funny, yeah.
but I feel like especially like UK actors, they can spot on do any sort of accent like immediately. So I think that's
Yeah, sometimes not, but
well, they fake it really well then.
yeah, if you've been to drama school, you probably have done all the accents. Um, yes, because you've got 3 years of training and you do quite a lot of voice coaching in that.
For this new series, who is the first person that was cast?
It was Jamie Roy.
Did like when you read the first script, did his name come to mind?
We knew him and we had put his name aside, but when you're doing a big search, I mean, we also had to bear in mind we were casting people who should look like their parents, or they were in Outlander, and we're casting the younger versions. So we got pictures of all the characters, say in Outlander, and put them on a big board. So we knew, Colum and Dougal and Mrs. Fitz, and so you got in your head, but also having worked on the show, I knew what their sort of characteristics or their essence. And for every role, we saw a lot of actors. So Jamie Roy got the role, but we saw a lot of actors for Brian Fraser. But some of those actors that we saw for Brian Fraser, we said, "Oh, you perhaps could be a Murta."
Yeah.
Along the way.
Hmm.
So it was an interesting process because you were not also trying to get chemistry between our two pairs that are our leads, but also, with siblings, also with future relationships as well.
I did see something that Jamie Roy, he was originally going to be cast in Outlander, but you guys sort of held him off because he looked so much like Sam Hewen.
That's not quite true. He was going to play like a messenger, and the part got cut. So,
Ah,
but he wasn't the
the
only one
universe did him well.
he wasn't the only one that got tested, because you can't have just one, because you never know what's going to happen. So but he did very, very well. He did, and he's great. He's such a
Yeah.
lovely man as well.
I got to think, I'm an actor too, and I got to think like being the first person to be cast on a show and like the lead of the show, it just got to be like just mind-bogglingly awesome, you
Well,
know?
you need one to get the others, because it's a bit
Yeah.
like a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? So then you've got to match, who, Ellen is. Because sometimes when you think and it happened on Outlander, because it was like when Sam Hewen was cast, it was like, oh, but I don't think we're going to be able to find this lead for Outlander. But I knew Sam from drama school, so when I went in for my meeting with Ron and Meryl and co, I just sort of I knew because I was going, this is difficult, and ended up as always, it wasn't that difficult, but you don't know it at the time, which role is going to be the hardest to cast.
I always think of casting as like, those crime shows where they have like pictures of people with like the red
Yeah.
lines going from everywhere. It's like, I don't know how you guys do this.
Um, well, you got as I say, you start with one and then you work out. But we knew the characters anyway. So when you're casting brothers like Dougal and Colum, who you had, Sam Retford, and is as Dougal, you then had to and when he came in, I was with Jamie Payne, the director, and we looked at each other and we went, cast him. It was just that feeling that he took over and he just had that Dougal essence that was right. And uh, Sive, who plays Jocasta, I mean, she looks so much like our older Jocasta, and they're both Irish. So it was wonderful to have that sort of, because you look straight to her eyes and you just go, oh my God. Sometimes it's luck with casting because sometimes, people are unavailable, people are available.
Speaking of Sam, I read that I saw in an interview. He said that he was thinking about like quitting acting before he got. Actually, you asked him to audition for Brendan, I think, or no, for Brian. That's what he said in the interview. And he was like in the self tape. He said he was eating a pork chop or something. And then you called him back a couple months for Dougal.
Oh, you mean, oh, Sam Redford. So
Yeah,
yes,
Sam. Yeah.
yes, that's, I said, a lot of the boys we cast them for Brian. The same with Armurta, with Rory, is that they all, but as soon as we saw them, you go, well, you're not a Brian, but we like you, you fit in. And so we earmark them for other roles.
Do you remember what it was about his self? I mean, his self tape and like eating pork chops and why you guys like? Do I need to eat a pork chop on my next self tape? I mean, what was
Oh,
that the
no.
secret?
No, I mean I'm he was he just had that sort of Graham McTavish sort of strong energy that you feel that is can do anything and is fierce. But he's actually very gentle, so but that's actors for you, isn't
Right.
it? The people who play, the baddies are not are sometimes the gentlest people.
Who was the hardest to cast?
The girls, Ellen.
Why is that?
Uh, I think it's because you want to make sure that you've got somebody who, I mean, Harriet, I've known for a long time, and I loved her. But also you've got chemistry. You've got to have the chemistry with the guys. So as I say, you've got to get one, and then you've got to have the chemistry. And I know, Jamie has said, Jamie Roy has said that he screen tested with quite a lot of lovely actresses, and we knew that in my office that he and Harriet had immediate chemistry because when you can't, that's something you can't fake. Um, but we had to do it sort of remotely because Harriet was not in London, where I'm based, and Jamie was in Scotland, and she happened to be in Scotland, so we did it, and we were all looking on on a screen, and it was immediate. We were going, oh yes, yes.
So after watching like tons of like I'm sure self tapes and auditions, and you're finally whittling down actors for one role to like three or four people,
Hmm.
and you kind of and you bring them into showrunners. Do you always have like one person who you think is best for that particular role?
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I was very lucky. We had our director Jamie Payne with us, so he came into our studio and we worked with the actors, and we saw them before we screen tested them, so you get to know them. And sometimes you just knew, like when we saw Sam Retford do his Dougal audition, he came down from Manchester because he'd been there and he was on his motorbike, actually. He'd come. Um, and he came in and we, as I said, we just looked at each other and went cast him because he just had this manly energy that sort of took over our studio. Sometimes it's sometimes it's harder to coax people with their roles because they do get nervous. So and also you have to think that that it's changed so much now since COVID because we used to tape all the time, and now it's now mostly self-tapes. Self-tapes, because we did look everywhere, for our leads. We did look in Australia, we did look in Canada. So we did sort of have a wide net to find, because you always want to find, the best actor for the role. And it's, for example, I'm just Tony Curran, we knew, when it's an older actor, he is sort of the most recognizable face that we have. So, he was chosen because he has the right attributes for Lord Lovett. And some of the others, it's sort of, as I said, we auditioned them for other roles. Ned Gowan, we had to have somebody who was short of stature, shall I say, because Bill Patterson is not a giant. And so you are then sort of looking at a different field, but you have to have somebody who's highly intelligent for that role, and also has that sort of kindness and patience and voice, which Connor has. And he's done a lot of varied work as well.
After watching this and Outlander and a lot of the stuff you do, it's just everything, the casting wise is so like spot on. It, you've got to feel like it's got to feel so satisfying, just getting the right perfect cast, and like closing the book on the season. It's like just how satisfying is that to you at the end of the day?
Very satisfying. I mean, because in the end, it's you as a casting director, you do have a say, but ultimately you're not the one who makes the final decision because you've got producers, showrunner, you've got studio and network, so everybody does have a say on what. So you really do have to believe who is right for the role. And if necessary, argue your corner. um, and it's so nice. They all care about each other, which is fantastic. They're all friends. When I was up recently, they were all going, "Oh, you coming out tonight for dinner?" They're all very, very close, which is lovely.
I've
I
just got
am very sad, and that makes it more satisfying to know that not only have you got great actors, they're also lovely people.
I've just got a couple more questions to ask you before
Yeah.
I let you enjoy your Friday evening. Um, uh, so now that self-tapes are the way things are going, what are your like top self-tape tips? Like what makes a great safe self-tape to you?
I mean, I don't mind. It's quite interesting. I've been looking at some tapes recently. I mean, you can do it nowadays. You can do it on your phone. You don't need fancy things. You don't need fancy lighting. just make sure that, and you don't even have to learn, everything off by heart, as long as we can see your eyes. I suppose one of my best tips is look at the scene and think, why have I been given this scene? What do they want to see from me as an actor? And it's not, that you can do anything and everything. It's that you've been given a scene and there must be a reason why you've been given that scene. Um, Try and do as much research as possible, because sometimes it's a genre thing. So what's the pace of it. Um, Different nationalities do different things, I've noticed, which is interesting. Say Germans, if it's an outside scene, will shoot outside. Um, if there's food, they will eat, but that's not, props are not necessary unless, you feel that it helps you with like the gun or a sword, or instead of, going like that. Um, um, just profile, just make sure that we do see your face. That's all. It doesn't matter for me what background that it is. Um, Nowadays, you can use apps if you can't find somebody to read with you. There are possibilities. We offer, if you haven't got a reader, we will Zoom with you. We will
Oh,
read with
nice.
you. We don't sort of because it's not always that convenient. I think it's great, here that in the UK, in the old days, it used to be you get 15 pages to learn as an actor, which was, ridiculous, really, because you don't need
Terrifying on
that.
my end. Terrifying.
Terrifying, that you've got to learn. So now, it's less, which is fantastic. We try and give actors as much time as possible. And that's the other thing. We do watch every single tape. You don't get lost in the. I do a show called also Silo at the moment, and
Which is great, by the way. I've seen that too.
quite a lot of actors who've done who've taped. We get them to retape, and they've got lovely roles. So it's never, as an actor, it's always hard to think, well, I've just done this. I've really done a great audition, but I didn't get the role. I think you just have to put the door on it and just go, well, it's a craft. If I'm asked back, they like me. They want me to do well. And in Blood of My Blood, that's what we have done with quite a lot of the characters. Ellen's sisters have come out from actresses that auditioned for Ellen. So we have utilized a lot of actors that we saw for other roles, who eventually got a role.
And my final question that I just always love to ask, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you in an audition room?
Um, the craziest thing, I suppose, if somebody actually physically sort of comes and wants to touch you, or because I tend to read, with actors, so it's sometimes like, why are you doing this? But
Speaking of
that
terrifying,
it's terrifying. Nothing really sort of crazy has happened recently. I shouldn't, because now we jinxed it, haven't we?
yeah, I've just screwed everything up.
It's good. I once got locked out of my office when I was meant to be auditioning. I suppose that was because I closed the door and hadn't got the key with me. So we had to call the locksmith and get in. So I don't know if that counts, but I mean, that was really embarrassing, I think.
Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the
No,
time to chat with me. I really enjoyed this.
Okay, well, I hope that went well,
It
and
did. I thought, yeah, it was great. It was great, and you're lovely, and I really do love all your work on
thank you.
the shows. Mm.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
enjoy what I do, and I think that's
I
the
can
main
tell.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.